Why did I lose my South African accent? And what does it have to do with these very handsome men? I'm Christy in Calgary, and let's go. Did I actually lose my South African accent? Yes and no. I liked keeping my natural South African accent. I thought it made me unique in the new home country, but it did get exfoliated over the years. Essentially, I will very rarely order a glass of water at a restaurant. It is always a glass of water in a noisy environment because I just got freaking tired of repeating myself. But when I speak to other South Africans in person or on the phone, the accent actually comes back pretty thick. It was in my 20s when I worked with my agent in acting because I was getting more involved in film and television, and she met with me and said, you have to lose your South African accent. Not the moment when you walk on and do your audition, but the moment you meet any of the casting team, because they will be looking for you to slip up and they don't want any errors. I understand they don't want slip-ups on set. I started to look for active ways for me to change my accent to suit a North American audience. And yes, if you ever do hear me on TV or radio or on stage, I sound as basic and North American as a pumpkin spice latte. But the funny thing happened. Once I changed my accent for those scenarios and I could kind of put it on when I needed to, I realized that there were other benefits to not having a foreign sounding accent. And I'm going to get into those right now. Now, some of you will say, Christy, my accent is delicious. How dare you imply otherwise? To which I will say, is it really? Depending on the context. So I make zero judgment on whether you should or you shouldn't keep your accent. You do you and what fits your unique situation. However, I am going to give you a dose of reality and truth that most Canadians or North Americans are a little bit too polite to say to your face. There is an implicit understanding and a leap of conclusion that people make when they hear an accent and an assumption about your fluency, as well as an assumption about your intelligence. I don't think this is the right thing to do. I don't even think it's true. I actually call BS on a regular basis. I have friends with very different accents who are very intelligent people. It's not fair or right. Or often I've interacted with Canadians who are not used to different sounds, and they will change the way they interact with you because of the way that you speak. And you're like, no, Christy, that's complete nonsense. Canadians never do that. And I'm going to say, all right, let's go through a few examples of accents that are preferred. And if you can't make the connection between colonialism and media representation highlighting certain accents as desirable, okay, I'll leave it at that. But why do we have the classy aristocrat with a particular accent? Or the wealthy, kind of actually uber rich gentleman? Or what about, an accent that's a little different? Like the rugged Australian who happens to be able to do incredible Broadway numbers. And I know, if maybe a little bit off the beaten track is the once in a while brooding intellectual Irishman who's lyrical and handsome at the same time. Yeah? Oh yeah, and if you really want to be a little bit different, how about Trevor Noah? Yeah, I'll throw him in there. He's handsome and funny and... Christy, how can you say Trevor Noah? He's South African. You just said we should change the accent. Yeah, he does have a South African accent. But Trevor Noah is a master at accent. And he does something very unique when he steps into a North American audience. He is able to completely switch it up or dial it to exactly the level that he needs to be understood by a North American audience. He has a South African accent, which he keeps parts of to sound unique. And then he dials all the parts that are difficult to understand for a North American audience into the range of their ear that makes it acceptable. Which again, it's not exactly a full-on South African accent. It's brilliant. People don't even realize that he's doing it, but it's something that he had to do to appeal to a North American audience. Yeah. And I'm going to say that there are certain accents that have a cachet to them. And I think they're connected to a history of colonialism and power and media representation. And you'd be like, oh, Christy, that's not true. Which I would say to you, how about you give me some examples of a Singaporean English accent in mainstream North America as a hero? Or how about a thicker Indian accent, again, as a hero or heroine in a North American context? Or when last did you see an Afrikaans individual speaking English who is not the villain of the story or the anti-hero? Seriously, I would like to know. Just put it down in the comments below. I would love to be proven wrong on this. So yeah, just give me your examples. So are there benefits to you specifically losing your South African accent? To which I would say it depends. Because the South African accent is super unique. There is not just one. We all know that in South Africa. Very varied. So if you have an English South African accent, which is essentially pretty British, but with a little bit of spice, you might have an accent plus, which people like to hear and think, oh, that sounds so pretty and so nice and a little bit different, but I understand most of it. And then maybe you have on the spectrum somewhere like, oh, there may be a Kiwi, maybe not, which again, still possible and totally fine. Then if you switch into the realm of die accent, that accent, the lower guttural accent to the back of the mouth that doesn't fully articulate all of the sounds and vowels, often an Afrikaans English accent to be honest, or some other varietal. It is difficult for a North American audience to understand it because they are not used to the sounds. And you have to be really honest with yourself. Where does your accent land on that spectrum? And is any part of that accent holding you back in your career potentially? I just want you to know that there are Canadians who love accents. My husband is one of them. I honestly think it's one of the reasons he married me. He wanted something a little bit different. But for day-to-day interactions, and if you're connecting with a lot of people, it might be something that you want to keep in the back of your mind to change. If you are interested in how you can change your accent fast and for free, I have a video next week that I will link up here once it's ready, and you can figure out how to change your accent if that suits you. I'm Christy in Calgary. I do updates every week. You can follow me in my day-to-day life at Christy in Calgary on Instagram. Tot volgende week, vrienden.